Hello and welcome to Barely Tactical. I'm Sean and this is the first in our faction focus series where we're going to be taking a look at the orcs. Now, a little disclaimer, I'm no expert at Total War Warhammer 2, so if I do miss anything or get anything wrong, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments. I, will always welcome constructive feedback because I'm trying to learn this myself, but the orcs are one of my favourite factions in the game, so I wanted to show them off a little bit because I think they deserve a lot more love. So, without further ado, let's crack on, shall we? So first up on the list is Gore Ironhide, leader of Gore's Ardboys and clearly the most cockney of the orcs. He is very fond of Black Orcs and the Big Uns, which he gets buffs to both of them, more so the Black Orcs. He reduces the recruitment cost, he increases their armor, he increases their leadership skill, and he also has the potential to call them in the Big War system, which has been recently implemented in the new DLC. He also has a personal ability, which allows him to lower the defense, I believe, and raise his attack. So he'll lower the defense of his enemy and raise his own attack, which Gore then chews through the enemy at an insane rate. So let's have a look at who is next. So next up on the list is Skarsnik. This is a gobbo that I haven't played. The sneaky little boy requires a DLC from Total War Warhammer 1, The King and the Warlord, which I don't have, so I've never been able to dabble in this one. He does seem to like squigs and night goblins from what I can tell, as he has a minus 40% upkeep cost for goblin and night goblin units, which means stacking out goblins and night goblins is going to be pretty damn cheap in his army. He has the ability to spawn Doom Diver catapults into his War, which is another really good unit. He gets a unique building chain at Carrick 8 Peaks, and also starts off with the ability of Lightning Strike, which will be a lifesaver given how hard his campaign can be at times. So, let's have a little look at the next one. Next up is Worzag, the Great Green Prophet, the dancing boy himself. The land dances in his pants, so he doesn't like the frozen climate. I can only imagine that's because he doesn't want anything getting frozen, although he is made of mushrooms. That's confusing. He has the ability to spawn in Savage Orcs into his Great War. He also has a charge bonus for Savage Orcs. Upkeep is minus 50% for Savage Orcs. Physical resistance is 15% for Savage Orcs. So you're kind of guessing the theme here. He also is a damn good spellcaster, and getting the Foot of Gork with Worzag is going to be bloody useful and something you definitely want to do if you're going down the route of playing as him. He's a lot of fun. And if you can team him up with Gore, I think you'd probably got the strongest two orcs in your armies, which was just absolutely glorious. I've done it multiple times and absolutely love it. So, who's next? Now we have Grom the Paunch, the big lad himself who's fond of cooking, which is a unique function in the game for him. He's only accessible if you have the Warden and the Paunch DLC, which unlocks Eltharion for the High Elves and Grom for the Orcs. The Grom's Cauldron function is basically after a battle, you can obtain ingredients, which then Grom will cook up in his cauldron and potentially give yourself some positive effects for a set amount of turns. He doesn't like High Elves, so automatically starts off really hating them, and they hate him. His War has the ability to spawn in pump wagons, which I don't mind them, but I suppose if they're free, that's okay. He has a global duration of -1 recruitment for goblin units, so you can easily pump out goblins in this army as well, which is going to be what you want to do because he has a physical resistance of 10% for goblin units, which is quite handy. He also has a passive regeneration ability, and that's pretty much it, if I'm honest. So, who is the last orc in the ranks? So last but not least, Azag the Slaughterer, the orc who took the song Pretty Green Eyes far too seriously. He starts off with a plus 40 relationship with Vampire Count and Ark in the Black, which is handy given his starting location in the campaign. His Great War has the potential to spawn in Wyverns, 3 Wyverns, who's not going to want that? Research is plus 20%, and he gets also an income from sacking settlements buff of 25%, which is really handy because sacking settlements is quite useful as orcs, but we'll talk about that later. And that's pretty much it. He's a very bog standard orc, but he is a lot of fun. So heroes and units. A hero that you want to get early on is the Orc Shaman. The Foot of Gork spell is absolutely brilliant. It does a ton of damage, and it has a really good range. If you put the Orc Shaman on a boar mount, it will make things so much easier, being able to harass your enemy, wind them up a bit, and make them come to you, which will be very, very helpful. Another hero that is good and was a little bit later on, not massively later, is a giant river troll hag. They provide good replenishment to the army, which, given the fact you're going to have a lot of units and a lot of armies, that's going to be really damn useful. They generally come with the Law of Death as well. I think that's the only law they come with, and that's what I've been advised by my community. Is that's a good one. I don't know too much about these things, but luckily I have a few advisors to hand who can point me in the right direction. Now on to the units themselves. The good units, Black Orcs, they are going to be your front line, especially from mid to late game. Maybe not so much early game. They're a very expensive unit to begin with, unless you're Gore, and then you start getting nice little buffs to strength and armor, and you start reducing the cost of the Black Orcs. Goblin Archers are going to be your bread and butter range units, which are very cheap, very quick to recruit. Generally only 1 to 2 turns, which is really handy. Arachnarok Spiders, these are sort of mid to late game, I would say. They're incredibly powerful. They look badass. They're a giant spider with loads of goblins shooting arrows off of them. Do I need to say any more? The Doom Diver Catapults are going to be your artillery, which are absolutely brilliant. I mean, they throw goblins at people, and you can control where the goblins go. Like, you're literally in the view of the goblin. That's a win. Night Goblin Fanatics. Now, these are a little bit of a double-edged sword. Having a few of them is quite useful. The Whirling Loon ability is powerful. It does do a lot of damage. However, they are bloody expensive for what they are. So, they're a maybe, I would say. The bigger void with a orc army is cavalry or chariots. They're too expensive for what they are. They don't last too long, and they're just going to get smashed and ruined. So, shall we have a look at campaign tactics? So, how the orcs play in battle. The orcs are pretty much primarily about numbers, fielding as many armies as you can as early on as you can. You want to stack them out with goblins, especially goblin spearmen and goblin archers, because they're a nice cheap front line and cheap ranged option. So if you do lose your front line, you know, being constantly battered by people, it's not going to cost you much, and it's also not going to take you long to replenish them, which is the important thing. As the orcs, you kind of want to keep attacking, even if you're not taking settlements, you're just sacking them. For the experience and for the loot, you kind of want to be constantly rolling against your opponents. You will get Doom Diver Catapults, I think, at tier 4. And the same with the Ragnarok Spiders. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. These are going to be really, really useful for when you run into things like dwarves or elves. I'm trying to think of the starting positions of what you might run into that they're going to become really useful with. The attack power of them and the fact that they're going to do tons more damage against armored opponents is going to really, really help you out, so they become incredibly important. The other thing that is really vital with orcs is the use of the Wa. Now, if you have a full stack 20 army and you declare the Wa, that means you, within a certain amount of turns, will have a second full stack 20 army alongside that first force. So you're doubling your troops for free. This is going to be a lifesaver in late game against the Empire, or High Elves, or Dwarves, or Skaven, or whoever has risen up and taken the vast majority of the map, because you'll find yourself not outnumbering the enemy as easily as you could early game, and the WoW will make all of the difference. So with all of that covered, I think it's time to have a little look at the more economy side and campaign map side of it. Let's have a little peek, shall we? So the campaign economy thing. The orcs don't have the strongest economy, not straight away anyway. So sacking is incredibly important as far as I see things. You get a huge amount of gold from it, not to mention the XP, so you can level up your lords as quick as possible. You kind of want to be very specific with what you're building as well, seeing as most of the good units for the orcs are at tier 4. I had a quick look, and I know earlier on I wasn't too sure whether it was 3, 4, or 5, but Ragnarok spiders, Doom Diver catapults, and Black Orcs are all available at tier 4. Now, you want to try to focus on gold producing buildings and growth, because obviously you need money for the units and you want to hit the higher level tiers as quickly as you can. Now, the beauty of this is once you are in a good position, you can confederate other orcs incredibly easily. All you do is run in, kick the absolute living daylights out of the orc leader. Once you've beaten them, you'll get a message saying, do you want to confederate, kill them, or let them go? Confederating, obviously, as long as you're not in the red, is a pretty easy and brilliant way of expanding your territory. But like I said, you do need to make sure you're not in the red, because expanding too quickly in lands that you can't pay for or you can't defend because you don't have enough men, or you won't have enough money to have enough men, is going to lead you wide open for attack from everyone else. So you need to be really careful with how you're expanding. Like I said, you want to focus very early on with gold production, growth production. Try to hit the higher level tiers so you can start churning out the better units, so you can really get a head start against enemies like the dwarves, like the Empire, and like the elves, who will have superior units to you, and they get the superior units rather quickly. I think that pretty much covers it. So, thank you for hanging out with me, guys. Let's just close things up, shall we? So I just want to thank you guys again for hanging out with me. I really love the orcs. They're probably one of my favorite factions in the game. The Doom Diver catapults are amazing. The Black Orcs, especially with the Immortals banner on, are an absolute laugh just to watch them churn through enemies and not die. Gore is best boy ever. So this has been absolutely fun. I'm gonna do some more faction focus videos. I'm gonna hope to try to release one a week. I'm not entirely sure who my next faction would be. If there is anyone you would like to see, either let me know on Twitter or in the Discord or in the comments below. I'll leave all the links for the things and the social media. I'm currently running a hard mode Nakai the Wanderer campaign over on Twitch. I'm trying to get used to hard mode as my new format of choice, so this should be interesting. If you like what you saw, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It's going to really help. I'm going to try and push for Total War Partner over the next few, next year, I'd say, to be more accurate. I'm already a verified content creator for Total War, so you can expect a lot of Total War content on the channel and a lot of early reveals and that kind of thing. So I'll be really excited to share that with you guys. Feel free, like I said, to stop by my Twitch channel. I'll leave the link below. I do loads of Let's Plays on Crusader Kings, Total War, and all, whatever strategy game really is on my mind at that point in time. So I'll stop rambling now. Thank you all, you glorious gits. Enjoy your Wednesdays and have a good war.